Welcome to this morning's webinar, where we will be looking at Belbin and Appreciative Inquiry. My name's Jo Keeler, and I'm one of the partners here at Belbin and have been working at Belbin and using the language for over 19 years now. And I am delighted to be joined today by Pearl D'Souza. And we've just worked out that we've been working together. This is our 10th year of working together.
That's right.
So again, we know each other quite well. So don't worry, we're not arguing, okay? It's just how we are. But I've also worked with PrePearl and your father, Leslie, well, he was here before I was.
Wow.
So you have a wealth of Belbin experience there, which is just marvellous.
Thank you.
Pearl, before I ask you to introduce yourself, I'm just going to do a bit of housekeeping and then we're going to come back to you, okay?
Yeah, sure.
So for everybody who's joining us, please put all of your questions that you have ideally in the chat. Otherwise, I get too distracted by too many boxes and I don't know what I'm doing. But please do ask questions and we will try and put them in at the relevant point. If we don't ask them, we'll try to put them in at the end. And if you still haven't got an answer, I take a copy of this and we will get in touch with you after the webinar, but we only have a limited amount of time. We will be sending this webinar as a recording. I will hopefully do that tomorrow. So make sure you've got team@belbin.com or joe@belbin.com whitelisted. Otherwise, it will just go into your spam or junk mail. If you don't get it tomorrow, you'll get it in 3 weeks because I've actually got a couple of weeks off. Very excited. Actually got a holiday. I'm not going to Spain. I'm going to my mum and dad's at the seaside because we can't travel. But there we go. So hopefully we'll get everything done before I go. Pearl, over to you. Quick introduction, and then we're going to do the Belbin Circle.
Okay. Thank you, Jo. First of all, thank you for inviting me here. And it's just fantastic to be with the entire Belbin community and really Belbin worldwide community. And I think it's brilliant also that you've started the webinar series, because I think it's such a fantastic opportunity for all of us to learn from one another and just look at applications. And I think it's so very important, especially during this time, because there's really need for change and really enhancing effectiveness. So thank you for that, and excited to be here. A little bit about myself. Yes, this is my 10th year speaking the Belbin. Well, I think speaking the Belbin language probably happened even before 10 years ago, because but yeah, 10 years of doing Belbin and absolutely enjoying it. I think I particularly enjoy working with, especially when I'm able to use it with intact teams. And I'm actually able to see the difference that the teams are experiencing. And we've had, of course, fantastic opportunity to leverage Belbin in a number of organizations with wide-scale change. And I think some of our Belbin practitioners are also on this webinar right now. So that's really exciting. So my area of focus really is working with teams, working with leaders, and we're really focusing on maximizing potential. So that's a little bit about me.
Wonderful. Thank you, Pearl. And Pearl is also one of our regional representatives in India. You've got the, so it's wonderful to have you here. Now, if you've been to our webinars before, you know this is the technical bit, just where we get really hi-fi. Because the wonderful thing about Belbin is that Belbin can help predict behaviours. It can help predict how working relationships are going to happen. So what I'm going to ask Pearl to do is shout out her top 3 team roles.
Okay.
Okay, and I shall put the sticker in the right place.
Okay, so my first team role is the team worker.
So team worker just here, one of the social roles.
Yes, the second one is the shaper.
Don't worry, we're not going to overrun people. Right, excellent. What about your third?
The third one is the resource investigator.
Yeah, and I knew that due to the fact that we've been talking off topic for quite some time and we've explored lots of opportunities, then we had to remember we were doing the webinar. Fantastic. Pearl, I'm going to ask you, what is your bottom team role? What's number 9?
Number 9 is definitely the monitor evaluator.
So needs to find somebody to work with there. So this is Pearl, and this is going to be interesting because we share 2 team roles. We share the resource investigator, we share the shaper, but I have coordinator as well. So my bottom role is completer finisher.
Oh, is
So
it?
yes, well, it could be completer finisher, it could be implementer, it could be monitor evaluator. They're all pretty non-existent, to be honest with you. So what we'll do now is, for everybody who's joining us today, who knows a little bit about Belbin, I'm going to give you 1 minute just to type. And when you type in the box, if you wouldn't mind making it to panelists and attendees so everybody can see your comments, that would be fab. How do you think this next 45 minutes to an hour is going to run? How do you think we're going to be able to conduct this webinar? And does anybody need to change their behaviour?
Interesting.
Yeah. Now, we have to be quiet here, Pearl. It's difficult. It's difficult to be quiet. You're enjoying yourself too much. Shush, it's serious. Right, so what do people think? How will this relationship, positive atmosphere and smooth running? Oh, thank you. Okay, honestly, I just want you to give some facts, explore the approach and learn from others with their input. Can you repeat the question? How do you think Pearl and I, looking at our team role distribution here, which seems to be just over this side, how do you think that we will conduct this next 45 minutes? Lots of communication. Yes, participants will be listened to. Considerate to attendees. Lots of ideas in chat, but maybe remind time frames. We need to keep on track. Lots of side conversations. Friendly, high energy and a little off track. Aidan, I think you may have just put, yeah, I think that's fair. You'll drive the agenda. Yes, we will. Conversations, happy faces. Okay. Push back and challenge to keep on track. Thank you so much, keeping us curious. I love doing this, Pearl, because it just shows that people may not know me, may not know you, may not know either of us, but just by doing this, gets a feel for our relationship and how it would go.
Right.
I think it's interesting. I am going to try and moderate my shape of behaviour, okay? I'm going to play more of a coordinator role because I'm the host and you are the guest. So you get allowed to play to your strengths. I'm the one who's going to have to change a little bit there. But it does show, I just like to say this, what's really interesting, it says that we enjoy working with people who are similar to us, but we're most productive when we work with people who are very different. So we're always going to enjoy ourselves, Pearl, but whether or not we get anything done is a whole different ballgame. Right, let me move that out of the way. We're here to talk about Belbin and Appreciative Inquiry. What is Appreciative Inquiry, Pearl? I mean, I'm saying this, I heard you at your workshop that you did at the Belbin Symposium a few years ago when you were talking about this approach.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's other people who aren't quite so, clear about what actually it is. And AI has got so many different connotations. So please, could you talk us through what is Appreciative Inquiry?
Yeah, most definitely. And I think, Joe, the Appreciative Inquiry framework and process is just a fantastic and powerful change management approach. And I think it is an approach that can be extremely useful to all of us right now, because in the current situation, I think we are all being faced with change. We are all having to adapt, to address. And AI as a technique is something that can be used at an individual level. It can be used at the team level and also the organization level. And I think in that, it really has quite a bit of power and quite a bit of opportunity for us to really dig deep and actually say, how can we actually use this tool? So a very powerful change management process. Yeah, that's what the AI is. Yeah.
Perfect. And like you say, it's so relevant to now, isn't it? Because I don't think there's many people who aren't going through some level of change, either personally, team or organisation, right at this very moment in time. So the timing for this, I think, is perfect.
Will do.
So where would you like to start?
So, Joe and I were talking a little earlier before this, and we also did notice that we said, well, our top roles are more on the social bit, but we did do something that we are quite happy about, aren't we, Joe? Considering the whole implementer bit. Can I put up?
No, please do, because we both felt, well, actually it was Pearl. I'm just taking credit. I didn't do anything. Slightly smug, I think the word is. But look at that.
So what we did do is, of course, there's a proper presentation, but very importantly, we said we must put down the session objectives in terms of what is it that we're going to be covering over the time that we have together. And therefore, four main areas that we're going to look at. Belbin already spoke about, Joe was talking about what is AI, and we're going to be talking about AI as a change management tool. We're particularly going to be talking about how Belbin can help build the whole appreciative inquiry mindset. And I think this is very interesting because for me, the AI and Belbin are both strength-based approaches. And together, they can make a really powerful combination. We will talk about how Belbin can power the AI process. And of course, we are also going to share some tried and tested Belbin exercises to really be AI, because AI is not so much a tool, it's more of a mindset and an approach. And therefore, it's really about being AI, really embracing appreciative inquiry. Does this look good, Joe, to kind of start off with? Yeah?
No, it's perfect. I am in awe of your implementer, which you don't have, so that's great.
I don't have. Brilliant.
Wonderful. So, Pearl, the floor is yours. Please take it away.
Thank you. So, Joe and everyone on the webinar, when we normally look at, when we're faced with a problem, our immediate response, the popular response, is to look at the problem and to actually analyze the problem. Analyze what has really gone wrong, what is really not working, so that we can fix the problem. And in that we say, that's how we find the solution. With appreciative inquiry, all that we are doing is we still have the problem, but there's a slight change in angle. So we're saying we have a problem, we don't want this problem. What is it that we really want? We want something else. And therefore, we kind of do analysis really of what are the resources that are present. So for example, let's just say one of the issues at an individual level that I may be facing is, at the end of the day today, in today's time and age, I feel extremely drained. I feel tired. I'm overwhelmed during the day and I'm just drained by the end of it. Now that's my issue. I don't want that. But what is it that I really want? Well, what I want is really to feel, I want to feel fulfilled at the end of the day. I want to feel like I have created, that I have really added value. That's what I want to feel at the end of the day. And with appreciative inquiry, we're going to say, okay, this is what I want. Therefore, what's the past experience? What's the knowledge? What do I have in order to make this possible? And through that, come to the solution. And therefore, AI is really that change in angle in terms of how you really look at a problem. Why is this change in angle important? Well, the change in angle is important because we're looking at two different systems. We're looking at a system that's complicated and a system that's complex. What is a system that's complicated? When you're dealing with machinery, you've got fixed elements and the elements work in a certain way. So if something goes wrong in the process, so if something goes wrong with the element, you just need to figure out where the issue is and you just need to fix it, because there's just one way in which the elements will work, or there's a finite way in which these elements would work. However, a system becomes complex as soon as you have emergent behavior that's coming in. So as soon as you have human beings that are part of a system, well, we come in with our emotions, we come in with our values, we come in with our will, and we come in with our ability. And in that, there's behavior and there is new reality that's constantly emerging. Now, the question is, when you have this new behavior, this new reality that's constantly emerging, well, it is now therefore getting complex. And therefore, can we have an approach to change and problem solving that's a little different and that takes into consideration this emergent behavior, that takes into consideration the emotions that we are really coming into a situation with? So Joe, I'm thinking maybe we can dive a little deeper over here into this whole aspect, okay, of really looking at what is it that all of us bring to the table when we are part of any system, yeah?
Okay.
And this is where we're actually going to ask you to take out your phones, okay? So if you have your phone, take out your phone. We're going to be using Mendy Meter. And we're going to ask you to go to www.menti.com using that code. We'll probably also send you a link on the chat screen.
Just sent. If you can't get to your phone, there is a link now on the chat which you can go straight to.
Yeah, just click on that link, okay? And I am just going to move to my Mendy Meter screen. 1 second. And let's present this. Okay. So once you come on to the Mendy Meter screen, so you go to www.menti.com, use the code 609654, and you have a question over there. The question is, what emotions have you felt during this time of the pandemic? What emotions have you felt during this time of the pandemic? Fantastic. Joe, this is interesting. Everyone's on it already.
They are. Hang on, I'm on it too.
Fantastic.
I'm going to be honest.
So what emotions have you felt during this time of the pandemic? You can choose more than one emotion, of course. Oh, brilliant. Look at that all coming in.
Look at that. This is a wonderful tool to use, isn't it?
Oh, it's fantastic. Okay, we've got 57 respondents already, 59. Brilliant. Okay, just going to wait for another 5 seconds. Oh, so
That's
we've got...
really interesting.
It is. And so what are the emotions we felt? And the options we've got over here are denial, anger, frustration. Oh, look at the compassion, acceptance. Look at the optimism. Brilliant. And there's quite a large cluster of frustration also. Yeah. And it's interesting, right? I think the pandemic has really given us an opportunity to really experience a gamut of emotions. Yeah, quite a gamut of emotions. And now, therefore, when you look at it, I mean, look at each of these words that you see on the screen. Denial, anger, frustration. There is some bit of negative affect over there. And then you look at compassion, acceptance, optimism. Joe, I'm really, I don't know, there's just a nice feeling to see the amount of compassion, acceptance, optimism also.
It's the
kind
Belbin
of
community, Pearl. It's the Belbin way, I think, isn't it? Yeah.
I think brilliant, because, you know, when you look at this, you will realize that, just 1 second. Yeah. You realize when you look at emotions, emotions have the power to drain us. Every time you felt frustrated, yeah, times when you have kind of felt you were in denial, you'd realize in those instances, it's just a feeling of being drained. It's not really a feeling of being wanting to do something more, yeah, of being dejected. But you also realize in those instances when you felt compassion, when you felt hope, those are feelings that allow us to also reach out, to allow us to also take that step, make a difference. And therefore, emotions also have this generative power. Yeah, they say emotions it means to move. It really gives you the energy to move. And therefore, these positive emotions have this innate energy of just being generative. And the question is, therefore, as human beings, can we leverage this? Yeah, is there insight for all of us over here? Now, we're going to ask you one more question. Okay, so if everyone's back onto their Mendy Meter screen, we are asking you to think of one thing that you have done differently during the pandemic. Okay, so we want you to think of one thing that you've done differently during the pandemic, and what value or benefit did you get from it? So one thing that you've done differently during this pandemic, and what is the value or the benefit that you have got from it? And just type in your answers in the space on your screen.
It's the
So
same
either
link as
yeah,
before.
the
If
same link.
anybody's interested, it's the same link on the chat as before. I've just reposted that.
Great, thank you, Joe. Yeah. So the same link, the same code 609654. So think of one thing that you have done differently during the pandemic, and what value or benefit did you get from it? Oh, fantastic. Look at this. So we've got volunteering, we've got learning. The value is competency upgrade, practicing gratitude much more than usual, learn how to cook healthy food in a short time. Stop for lunch and go out inside of the garden to smell the roses, self-development, learning. Use the phone to talk more, one-to-one builds relationships. Brilliant. Learning something new energizes, there's no travel. Increased my confidence, connected with people. I've made contact with people from attending webinars. Very nice. Mindfulness, daily 10 a.m. help me routine. I've gotten fitter, helped with my mental health. Okay. Hard time to think and focus on self. I'm more directed. There's more direction for self. Huge benefit and so grateful. Remote delivery, resulting in less travel and more time spent with my family. Yeah. Brilliant.
Do you know what's really interesting, Pearl, is I'm reading these and I'm thinking of myself, you know, the fact that working from home for a little while was amazing. I actually know what my family looked like. And I'm smiling as I'm thinking about it. And I'm smiling and feeling really positive when reading through everybody else's feedback here. And it already makes you feel lighter, doesn't it? You feel more energized.
Fantastic. You know, Joe, what you have just shared right now, okay, where everyone's sharing what's been the value and benefit. So, you know, more connect with myself. You're thinking of your experience and you said you're smiling. What is really happening right now in Appreciative Inquiry is we are actually digging into what's known as the positive core, which is actually saying, what is it that's giving life to a situation? Yeah. What is it over here? What is there to celebrate? And that is tapping into the positive core. That's like really saying, okay, what all is available over here to celebrate? Yeah. So all of this, exercising more, feeling better, connected with self. Look at this. There are themes that start emerging. You've already found the theme of connecting with self that has kind of come up about thrice. You spoke of the family. Someone else also spoke about the family, mental health. And these are themes that really begin to emerge. And this is really tapping into the generative power of emotions to actually say, if I have experienced this so far during the lockdown, well, what more do I want to make of it?
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah, it feels like you can continue on that road.
Completely.
Yeah.
You can continue, and really, what's the best that I want, therefore?
Yeah.
What's the best thing that I really want to look forward to? And what we've done right now, Joe, is we've actually used the power of question to discover what's going right. We've used the power of a question to say what's here to celebrate.
Powerful, very powerful.
And yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say we ought to start our days every day, perhaps, with that question.
Oh, completely. You know, one of the things
you up.
I actually started doing that, Joe. One of the things I've actually started doing is actually starting the day with actually answering the question, what am I grateful for today? Like in the beginning, first thing in the morning. And sometimes it's just the bird chirping, but it just kind of helps you. You know, many people said it, they've been able to connect with themselves more during this time. And I think it is these mindfulness practices that are helping us do that. So even something like, what am I grateful for this morning? And I see a bird or I hear a bird chirping, it's suddenly I'm saying, oh, let me savor this moment. And that's really helping you connect. Connect with yourself.
No, absolutely. And I think this goes into a question we've just had, Pearl. Can AI work with someone who is dropping into depression, or is it more to maintain good mental well-being? So,
wow. I think that's so important and interesting, Joe. I think with someone who is, I think AI as a mindset definitely is helping you look at what is working. And I think if you are working with someone who you feel is getting into depression, etc., very important to address the issues that the person is actually facing. So you have to address the issues. But I think the approach that you take in addressing these issues, the AI can be very helpful in helping the person actually see, well, what all is working that I can use to help me address this issue.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. So it's not obviously going to solve everything, but it can help reframe that more positive mindset. But obviously with depression as an illness, there are other elements as well. There's lots of questions coming in, but I think we might get a bit distracted on this at the moment, Pearl. So I'm gonna play a little bit for coordinator shaper role.
Okay, will do. Would you suggest, therefore, that I continue with the slides?
That would be amazing.
Thank you, yeah. So therefore, when you're looking at appreciative inquiry, what you're really doing is you are harnessing the power of emotions and you're harnessing the power of questions. And that's really what makes appreciative inquiry really powerful as a change management process and technique. I think the important bit really is the questions, the inquiry, and the word appreciate. You know, when I was reading about appreciative inquiry, I thought it was so interesting. The word appreciate actually means increase in value. Yeah. And when you ask questions with the mindset of saying, what is here to celebrate, or what is the value of this, you are automatically increasing the value of what you have. So for example, in the question that we just answered, the very fact that I had to ask myself, what have I done differently and what's the benefit of it? It's kind of increased the value of that experience for you now. And that's what AI, that's the starting point. Yeah.
Perfect.
So the starting point of AI is really, what is it that we want more of? So there is a problem, okay? And we are not just saying, you know, there's an issue and we're going to look at it positively. We're saying there is a problem, but what is it that I want more of? So what is, in AI, it's called, what's the affirmative topic? What is it that I want over here? And the second point is, well, what is here to celebrate? These are the two main points that really get us started. So let's look at the first one of really creating or crafting this affirmative topic. Okay, so we've got an issue. So let's say that the issue is, and this was at the beginning of, in India, the beginning of the lockdown, we were working with an organization, and I think this was felt across because people felt a sense of disruption. There was fear, uncertainty. There was a sense of helplessness, a lot of confusion and really low morale. And we said, okay, that's the issue. This is a problem. We don't want this. What is it that we really want? What is something that we want to work towards? And we said that the affirmative topic was, we want to emerge strong in the face of fear. So this is the situation. We've never experienced this, but what is it that we want for ourselves and for our teams? We said, well, we want to emerge strong in the face of fear. So that's the first one. Or, as we spoke of earlier, to feel drained at the end of the day. That's not what I want. What is it that I really want? What I want is to feel productive. I want to feel fulfilled. I want to feel like a creator at the end of the day. I want to feel like I've really added value. Now, it's not a simple, problem and then just, changing it to removing the negative and making it a positive. It's more than that. It's really saying what would excite me, what would really drive me. So low customer orders. I don't just want more customer orders. What I really want is highly engaged customers who are raving about my products and services. Like, that's what I want. Yeah. So the first bit is really saying, what's the issue? But what's that affirmative topic that's really exciting me? Yeah. And what do I want in its place? That's the first bit. Then the next question is going to be, okay, if this is what I want, well, when was the last time I had that highly engaged customer who was raving about my product and service? Who was that customer? What was he or she saying? When did he or she say it? You are now getting deeper into discovering what really went right. Or when was the last time I had that really productive feeling at the end of the day? When at the end of the day, like, I'm tired, but it's that good tired, and I'm feeling like this was a good day. What happened during that day? What went well? Was it that I actually got up earlier? I had time to myself. I was able to plan. Or did I start the day with a fantastic conversation with somebody? And then you're going to get ingredients of what really made the last time so fantastic. And with that is where we now get into really what is the 5D of the appreciative inquiry process. And there are 5 different stages. Yeah. And the first one is definition, the define, what we just spoke about. What is it that we want more of? What's the affirmative topic? The second bit then is saying, okay, when is the last time that I experienced this? Appreciating what worked well at that point of time. Once you've got that, what you're really doing is you're uncovering the positive core. You're uncovering the ingredients that you already have from your past experience to basically create such an experience again. Now, because you are tapping into the best of what is, the emotions are obviously positive emotions. And these are emotions that are generative. And you're saying, oh my gosh, I'm thinking of that customer who was really raving about me and he wrote a fantastic testimonial. This is brilliant. Now, what's the best that I can really envision for myself? What's the dream? Well, the dream is that every month I get my customers together and all of them are talking about what I'm doing. Yeah. And that's fantastic. Yeah. So I'm actually the dream is the possibility of creating now a platform where I get all of them together, which for them is also an engaging. The dream then is really saying, what's the best that can be? Now that you've got the vision, now you've got this fantastic and exciting image of the future, the next bit really is, well, how do we make this possible? How do I design this? How do I create this dream into a reality? What are the steps that we're going to be looking at? And then the final D is actually destiny, which is actually doing it, working on that plan, making the plan a reality. These are the 5 Ds to the appreciative inquiry process. And I think this is where Belbin becomes really, really important, because I see Belbin really strengthening the process at 3 very critical places. Number 1, the discover. All of us in Belbin know what Belbin is really helping us identify is, what are we good at? I keep saying, it's almost like saying, what gives me wings?
Yeah.
What is it when am I in flow? And that's part of discovery, part of saying, what am I really good at? The other place where I think Belbin really anchors a change process like appreciative inquiry is in the design phase. Because this is where you are translating your vision into reality. This is the whole planning bit. And therefore, effective allocation of resources. Who should be working on what? How should we be managing ourselves? Belbin gives us those concrete inputs and points. And then, of course, the destiny, because the destiny is actually doing your review checks to actually say, how well are we working on this? Does anything need to be tweaked? Do we need to change anything? And of course, they're leveraging the team roles to actually say, what's the best critique and review that we can do of this situation at this point of time? I want to explain this a little more with an example. And we'll actually walk you through something that we did with an education institute. Joe, does that sound cool, or do you have?
No, that's wonderful. So I got distracted because lots of people are writing in. But I think what I find quite interesting about this discover phase of what's working is that when you ask a team what's working, I think it's going to depend very much on the makeup of the team, from their behavioural, their Belbin behaviours, as well as to what they think worked before. So it could be that the resource investigator may be looking at it from the opportunistic point of view, from the going outside of the organisation. This worked well because. However, somebody from a monitor evaluator may think, well, actually, it worked really well because we spent time at the beginning ensuring that the right option was taken. So actually, when you have this as a team process, you won't always get the same what's the best that's already happened, really, because you're going to have different perspectives, which adds a bit of depth in there, actually, doesn't it? I think it adds more ingredients. That's the word you used earlier.
Completely. And I think that's interesting, because when you get the whole team involved, and when everyone's contributing, you're really, as you said, getting all of those different ingredients and those instances onto the table.
Yeah,
And actually saying,
absolutely.
look at all that's kind of worked in the past, and how do we kind of now really harness this as
Yeah.
we prepare for the future,
Yeah.
as we plan our next steps. Yeah.
I love that, because different people are going to get different energies, aren't they, from different elements, and not everybody's going to agree. So you want to make sure that everybody's got the opportunity to tap into, for them, what was so great.
You know, and Joe, this is so interesting, because when you do the whole discover bit, this usually happens through conversations. And you know, sometimes it happens through what you call like interviews. They're called appreciative inquiry interviews that both of us would do together. And I'd ask you, I'd say, Joe, what was, almost like saying, can you tell me a time, you know, where you actually enjoyed working with the client? And in that process and in that exchange, you would actually, as you said, depending on our team roles, you would actually highlight aspects that for me becomes like an eye opener.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, oh wow, interesting. I didn't realize that. I didn't even think of it, even though we were on the same project.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
Yeah. And in that is also where you're really then building those bonds. And we've seen this happen so often with teams, where they're saying with just that interaction, that interview, seeing it from different perspectives really helps really build that connect also. Yeah.
It's really powerful. But sorry, I interrupted you then.
No, that's cool. No, not at all. I'm also keeping an eye on the time. I'm remembering. Great. So this is a simple case study, but one that's really close to our heart. This is with a government-aided engineering institute in Bombay. Now, in India, what we've noticed over the past few years, there's been an alarming slide in those opting for engineering education. This is an institute in Mumbai who we've been working closely with. And the professors at this institute are highly talented. You've got a fantastic mix of really young professors, those with a lot of experience. However, the management really felt that there was much more that they could put onto the table because they're extremely talented, and they felt that there really was much more. And very interestingly, in 2018, the University Grants Commission, there was a mandate that was passed that said that we really needed to focus on employability. Now, if this is something that is the new reality, then the whole bit really is that everyone needs to really look at how are we going to change and alter the way education is imparted, which really is what is the experience, what is the education experience that we're really giving out there. And it particularly required the professors, the management to come together, to work together. And this is where we used Appreciative Inquiry, and we've been working with them now for 2.5 years. But when we started off, and I'm going to give you a little bit about what we did. So the issue was, we felt that the teachers, the professors were really talented, but there was so much more that could be done. And therefore we said, what is the affirmative topic? What is it that we really want? And we said what we really wanted the professors to do was feel this pride and excitement in nurturing talent and growth. This is what we really needed, because if this would happen consciously, everything else would fall in place. We started with the first step of discover. We had over 170 conversations that the professors had amongst themselves. These were about 80 professors really talking about, you know, times when they have experienced pride and excitement in nurturing talent and growth in the past. And brilliant examples and, you know, sharing of stories in terms of how professors have gone out of their way, how they have touched lives, how students have come back, to thank them, the stuff that they have done in class, the one-to-one attention. Now, what happened over here was really the uncovering of the positive core of this entire institute. And they could all see it on this one board together. And suddenly it was like a wow experience. You know, it was, these are examples or these are personal experiences. But once I start sharing them with my colleagues, now this is almost like, it's like community richness together, yeah, that we have. We then looked at, well, what's the best possible that we want to now create for ourselves. And this is where we actually had individual and department dreams and visions. So each of the departments then sat together and said, okay, what is the best that we want to see for ourselves in the next year or 2 years? And then we looked at the design. Now, this is particularly where we really anchored it on the Belbin Team Roles. So all of the professors actually did their Belbin profiling. In their Belbin profiling, began to really understand what are each of their strengths. But immediately at that point of time, when they were working on their projects, we actually got them to say, okay, how are we going to allocate resources in these projects? Who's going to be working with each other? How should we be working together? And then, of course, was the destiny phase. So just before the pandemic, there was a complete makeover of the departments. So if you go to college, the departments, just the look and feel has completely changed. Yeah. Online sessions actually started even before the pandemic. These were things that they started kind of just trying out. And there's something that's known as the NAC accreditation, which is the accreditation that's given to colleges in the country. And they did really well on this particular accreditation. They were actually working for it for over a year. This was the entire process that helped them reach these outcomes. Now, interestingly, with COVID times, education has changed. There's online education. And once again, we've gone back to actually saying, okay, what are our strengths? What are things we need to look at? And what is the new reality that we want to really create for ourselves? So this was a little bit in terms of how this education institute really looked at change management, and where we used the AI process and Belbin for the same. When you look at Belbin and AI, I think Belbin really, in a way, anchors appreciative inquiry by two very important aspects. It really gives you a starting point and helps you discover further what is right, what is working. It's helping us uncover potential of ourselves and our team members. It gives us that language to really start looking at what is going right. So in that sense, in that philosophy, I feel it really helps in change management. And the second bit that it really helps with is the how of making the dream a reality. This is something that we've all been doing as Belbin practitioners, which is really saying, what's the goal of the team? How do we make this a reality? How do we leverage our resources amongst ourselves? Effective allocation of resources. Who should be working with one another? Are there team role sacrifices that need to be made? Does someone need to step up? While the AI process leverages emotions, the power of the imagination in the dream process, Belbin gives you the language, the anchor, and the technique of actually putting that planning into place. And I think that combination becomes really, really powerful.
Yeah. No, you can definitely see the link in there, can't you? It's yes, it really does show, I think, how well both Belbin and AI can work together with that.
Oh, completely. And you know, one of the things also is how Belbin can actually help us with an AI mindset. Joe, should I move on to that? Should I kind of talk about
I think
the
that
AI
might be
exercises?
Yeah, do you know, I think that might be useful. Just hang on one second though. Sorry, I just need to, they've got so much coming in, Pearl. This is so much debate at the moment. I just want to,
oh my gosh.
There's nothing worse than something, well, you didn't look at my question, is there? So we've got an expert on AI with Phil as well in the chat. So thanks, Phil, for answering some of the questions. That's wonderful. And I think really when it comes to mental health as well, AI, it's just a way of looking at things. Please, yes, employee well-being, everybody's well-being is incredibly important. There's so many things out there that can help if you are feeling more, negative or what have you, and you're not, you're not feeling as positive as you should. There are lots of companies have well-being services and everything to support everything. Absolutely. AI is just a way of looking at things. It's not there as an alternative to any of those really, really valuable services. So I just thought I'd quickly say that. Okay, that's fine, because I think Phil's answered quite a lot of the answers. So that's questions. So yeah, thanks. Brilliant.
It's fantastic to have Phil, because yes, I know Phil is completely the expert. Yeah, brilliant. I'm so glad he's here too.
Perfect. So yeah, no, next slide, absolutely, because I'm excited now because I get it. I love almost the simplicity, and I think sometimes the most effective models have that level of simplicity, don't they? It seems logical. You can understand why each process is there.
Yes,
So
true.
I'm thinking, but how? How?
Yeah,
So yeah, no,
yeah.
absolutely. If you've got a couple of exercises, Pearl, that would be amazing.
Fantastic. So what we're going to do is we've got a few exercises to actually look at how can we use actually our Belbin knowledge to build the AI mindset. Okay, to actually say, okay, because the AI mindset is really looking at a problem in order to find a solution, but the change in angle is actually saying, what is it that we want, and how do we really use our resources in order to do so? So, what are some of the Belbin exercises to be AI? That is even tuning ourselves to be able to even search for what is going right. Okay. So the first one is what we call the team role hero. Okay. And the team role hero, okay, requires you to have, well, to actually keep the 9 team roles in mind. Okay. And you can have like your team role summary sheet with you. Have that handy. And I'll also give you the example of when we did this in our team in the office over here. But let me tell you what it really does. So what's the benefit of this? The benefit of this practice is that it builds positive emotion, self-worth, strengthens an inclination to really spot what is working. Okay, and how do you do this? You spot team role behavior contributions from amongst your team members or family members, okay? And you notice, very importantly, the positive impact of that contribution. And the second step is you actually share this with the person in terms of what you noticed and the positive impact. So for example, we did this, I remember we did this for about a week or 2 weeks, and we found this really useful. So in the team, so you either have it at the end of the week or at the end of the day, and you say, okay, did we have a team role hero yesterday or day before yesterday? And it's interesting because the Belbin gives you a language to even really start looking for behavioral contributions. Yeah. And I remember this was a colleague in my team, and we had some workers, who had come into the office to do some work, and it was hard labor. So when the day got over, we said, we'll pack some snacks for them because they had a long journey back home. And my colleague said, yes, we'll pack some snacks. But, so in India, you may know also, Joe, we quite love samosas, okay, with tea. Yeah. Okay. So, but there's something that's called a bun samosa, which means the samosa is put in a bread. Okay. So when we were going to buy the snack, my colleague said, we're going to buy something for them. Get them a bun samosa. And she said the reason is because they've got a really long journey ahead, and at least the bread will also be filling. Okay. And we said, yeah, sure. We picked it up. And the next day, when we were at the team meeting, I said, you know what? I think we had a team role hero yesterday, and that was the team worker. And I took her name. And I explained to her, I said, when you said this, it was really a team worker contribution because you were really thinking of the fact that they would be tired, they would be hungry. And suddenly she said, oh, wow, I didn't realize. I didn't think of it.
Yeah.
But suddenly what you've done is her value has appreciated, in amongst all of us. And we are now beginning to spot and look for team role contributions. Now, this we found is a fantastic practice, all the more today when we are working in virtual teams.
Oh, absolutely, because so much is hidden, isn't it? We're not as conscious of what everybody's doing. Yes.
Exactly. And therefore, at our team meetings, if we are able to say this, to actually be able to say, hey, Joe, yesterday you passed on that connect, or you reminded me about this, and I would have completely forgotten about it. I think that was an implementer contribution. I don't know whether that would come from Joe, but just as an example, it's something that really helps. Now, in order to build mindfulness for ourselves, it's fantastic if you actually write this down. And you can actually just follow a very simple format of saying, what's the team member name? What was the team role of positive behavior that you spotted? And how did the person respond to you sharing this? And how did you feel?
So do you know, I'm going to start here actually, Pearl. I'm going to interrupt you because the team member name I'd like to put in there is Pearl.
Okay.
And the team role, positive behaviour in impact I've spotted is the fact that Pearl has been quite a high implementer and also team worker, and I think a little bit resource investigator, because what she has done is produce this as a PDF for everybody. So that, which is wonderful. So instead of just having this as a slide, we can share this with you tomorrow when we send out the video, which we're going to, of the whole recording, so that people can start using it too.
Yes.
So I'm saying that now. I'll type it in an email to you as well, Pearl. But I like this because it's almost like reinforcing the observer assessments, isn't it? But in real time. It's like real time observations.
Totally, completely.
Yeah.
And letting the person know. And I think, Joe, today we're all really looking for connect. We want to know that we are making a difference.
Yeah.
And we want to know that what we are really doing is making an impact for others. And I think this is just one way that allows both the person who is actually identifying the hero and the one who is the hero to really benefit.
No, I think this is great. And also, you know, when you're sitting there with a team, but well, you know, what has somebody done brilliantly? And you get put on the spot.
Yeah.
To be able to go, well, hang on a second. Over the last week, these are all of the positive contributions that members of the team, I feel, have made.
Oh, fantastic.
And so you're getting real input as opposed to having to suddenly come up with something on the spur of the moment, aren't you? So you're using it. Yeah, this is a really wonderful topic, which in practice, I think, not just for AI, but actually in general teams.
Very true.
Anyway,
No, completely.
perfect.
Yeah. And the second practice is what we call work your work style. Okay. And this one requires you to take your suggested work styles report page. We absolutely love this particular page, particularly in the reports. Yeah. Benefits, it builds positive emotion, engagement, relationships, also meaning and accomplishment. And how does it do all of this? Yeah. So what you do over here is before you start an activity, so you want to start any work activity, before you start a work activity, you actually look at your suggested work styles report and you say, go through the page and you say which of these work styles could actually add value to the task at hand. Okay, so which of these work styles could actually help me? And then you identify how can you integrate this work style in your task. So which of these work styles could really help me in this particular task? And then how do I want to really integrate this into my current task? This also works pretty well, when you're kind of low on motivation for a particular task and you kind of really need to get started, but you are wondering how you're going to really get that motivation level up. You actually look at this and you actually pick up and you say, which of these work styles can I actually use? I actually used this yesterday, Joe, while we were kind of preparing, and I hadn't yet. I needed a little more momentum. Okay, while I was working on the presentation, so I said, okay, let me look at my work styles report, and I looked at it, and there were two aspects that actually came up for me. One was listening, and that's my report, by the way, on the screen, which says my strength lies in building better communication with others, and I said that's something that I could use. And then the whole bit of exploiting opportunities, just the word exploiting opportunities, and then saying, okay, I like to be given responsibility, grasping opportunities and driving things forward. I said, my gosh, this is such a fantastic opportunity. What can we do? Can we tell people who would enjoy this webinar? Can we kind of spread the word? And that kind of just got activity happening in a particular productive direction. So you put down your work task, for example, producing the company newsletter. Write down which work style do you think would be useful. Possibly TWRI when you look at my report, and then you say, what is a concrete step that I will take to integrate my work style while addressing the task? So if it's TWRI, I may actually want to connect with some of our clients to actually understand what are pain points right now. And that's going to be important information for us to actually create content for our newsletter. And then that kind of really makes it something that's really valuable.
And I love this, Pearl. And again, double tick on helpful and all of those words, Palas. This is also going to be a PDF that we're going to send out to people. But this isn't just about me as well. This is something that the team could use. And I'm guessing this is at the design stage. So at the design stage with the whole AI process, if everybody came with their suggested work styles, that's when you can start working out how you allocate the right people to the right roles.
Fantastic.
And if you have that work style, I personally love it because it's not just looking at your top 1 or 2 roles, it's looking at your top 4.
Yep.
It gives you, again, more information there that I think the whole team could benefit. So everybody's there with their suggested work styles during that design stage. That would be perfect. Perfect.
Completely.
Thank you.
Completely. Yep. Yeah. So that's practice 1 and 2. And with that, this is just a summary of what we really covered. We said with AI, you're harnessing the power of emotions and questions. The AI mindset is to say, what do we really want more of? In that question is when you're beginning to solve the problem. In that question of actually saying, what do we want more of, begins the whole problem solving. And what is here to celebrate? We looked at then the process of AI, which with every process, you're moving closer towards the desired future that you want to create. We looked at how Belbin can particularly anchors, I think, these 3 elements in the process. And then 2 practices for us to really start being AI.
That is perfect. Pearl, thank you so much for that. I'm just going to, before we finish off, I've got a couple of questions because I'm quite interested in this one. How does one narrow down on what do we want more of? Because I tell you what, I could fill many sheets of paper. Just how do we narrow that down? And how is that different from the visioning exercise?
Brilliant. Oh, that's fantastic. I think when we're saying what is it that we want more of is, just going back to when I'd spoken about the problem and the affirmative topic. The affirmative topic, you've hit the right affirmative topic when you read that sentence and you say, yeah, this is what we want. This is exciting enough. This is exciting enough. The visioning exercise is more of a broader landscape. You're actually saying, 5 years hence, what is it? You're getting into details. You're getting into concrete details with the whole visioning exercise. And the visioning exercise actually comes in the whole dream stage. But in that defined stage, you are actually stating in a sentence, what do I aspire for? What do we want for the team? And the dream is getting into more detailing in terms of, or the vision is getting into more detailing in terms of the landscape and therefore what you want to kind of look at. I hope that kind of, in a way, helps clarify it a bit.
No, that clarified it for me anyway. So thank you very much, Pearl, for that. And also when allocating roles, of course, you need to look at knowledge and skills as well as your team roles.
Yes.
It can't just be team roles. You have to have a bit of knowledge and skill in there as well. So it's a big picture there. But I would just like to say, and actually, Pearl, as we draw to a close, the comments are coming in, and I would just like to say, everybody, not everybody, most people, otherwise that'd be an exaggeration, is just commenting on how much they've got from this session, and especially your energy, Pearl. So you've obviously found your inner core, what it is that you've been wanting, and it has just come across so wonderfully. And I'm going to ask you to join us again for another topic because I have
thank you.
Enjoyed that. So thank you very much. Pearl and I will stay on now for a few minutes in case anybody has any more questions. But otherwise, I'd like to say thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. I hope that you've found the whole combination of Belbin Team Roles and AI and something that you might just use. So rather than just being an interesting hour, hopefully there's elements of there that's, you thought, actually, I could use that in this situation. And it becomes a practical tool. And if you have, and if you do find yourself finding out your Belbin superheroes and using your work style reports, can you tell us, please? Because it would be great to hear your experiences and how it has worked for you. And I think right now is a good time to start using it, isn't it, during these It's just complicated, awful times that we're in at the moment. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. We'll be in touch. Pearl and I will just stay on just in case there's any questions that come through in the last few minutes. But thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody. I'm going through the comments, and thank you for just being so engaged and yeah, just a wonderful experience. So wonderful to be here. Thank you, Jo.